Welcome, Harambe Radio and Television family, to Live in the Spirit Business Monday with Brother Wali. Yeah, that's me. Also known as Wallace the Motivator Durham. And you've just tuned in to www.haramberadio.com, or you have called in at 1-805-309-0111. And as we do every Monday for 10 years going strong, we're getting ready for the next hour to take you to the next level of consciousness as the number one consciousness-raising radio station on the planet, bar none. It's our mission to work together for progress and bring you into Harambe, where we all pull together. So tell family, tell friends, tell those that you love to do as well, because what we are is on a quest for truth, knowledge of self, at the forefront of everything we do. So welcome once again on this beautiful Monday, October 14th, 2013. Welcome once again. All right, family. As always, on any business Monday, when I'm joining you, we are here to uplift you. Speak truth to power. Bring the masses together once again. And I thank you for tuning in as well. We'll have you, family, on Harambe Radio and Television. We are always looking for new avenues towards bringing the best out of us to bring the best out of you. And tonight will be no different. Tonight's special guest should lead credence to that. So I want you to know, family, that I'll do the best in me to make sure that this goes accordingly. I want to let you know, family, a few things. Friday night past was a great show, monumentous, so to speak. It was a Locks Conference special where our sisters, basically with Brother Delani, President Singo Bayal, I was on for a brief moment. But we really got to hear the energy of our sisters, Sister Valora, Sister Hashima, Sister Ayo. I hadn't heard from her in a while since I seen her a few years ago. It was a host of sisters on. If you go back and play that replay, Sister Kosuwa, I think, made a brief appearance, so it was very deep. And they're going to be on this Friday at 10 p.m., so make sure you check that out. And speaking of time and energy, this Wednesday will be the 18th year anniversary of the Million Man March that took place on October 16th, 1995. Yours truly was there in Washington, D.C. We made a stand. It wasn't about marching. It was about coming together. But tonight will be about coming together on a whole nother level. And I'm sure most of you have heard what we're about and what we do. Well, I do believe our brother could be in-house, but let me give you a little bit of his history so we can make sure we're all on this same page about the energy you're about to get. Now, this brother I was introduced to by a DVD a couple of years ago. The first one, Hidden Colors 1, to now a Hidden Colors 2, and soon to be Hidden Colors 3. Now, Kaba Hiawatha Kamini was born with the name Booker Taliaferro Coleman Jr. at a New York hospital Monday, November 16th, 1953. Now, he's a teacher, consultant, administrator, staff developer, and curriculum writer. He's been an educator in the Bronx, New York since October 16th, 1979. Presently, Brother Kaba retired from the New York City Department of Education and is a consultant to academic institution educators, parents, and community members interested in teaching and learning. Now, he married a beautiful sister, Sharon Deans, on May 1st in 81. They have 3 siblings. I just want to acknowledge their 2 girls, Sasha, Candace, and a boy, Heru. Now, throughout the 90s, Kaba served as a curriculum and staff specialist on several New Vision and charter school teams. He's received his bachelor's degree in international politics from New York University. His minor was in Caribbean studies. He got his first master's in art world history from Hunter College, New York. Now, you all know that's my alma mater. In June 87, he received a second Master's of Science in Education, Administration, and Supervision from the City College of New York, and that was in 88. Over Kaba Hiawatha's long career in education, he has consulted many boards of education, schools, community, parent, and student groups. He has visited many classrooms around the country and implemented successful strategies in the teaching and learning process. He is firmly dedicated to belief that culture plays a vitally important role in education and proudly credits many of his academic views to his teacher, world-renowned educator, Professor John Henry Clark, also a mentor of mine. In September 2001, he implemented his lifelong goal of developing an African-centered science academy named Per Ankh, Temple of House of Life. Kaba Hiawatha functions as the Academy's principal facilitator and chief executive officer. The Per Ankh is an online program and that can be reached at www.townzonetv.com. That's www.townzonetv.com. Have more information on Kaba Kameni before the show's out, all of his contact information and everything included. Now, coming to the air, this powerful brother is going to give you some information, and most of you have seen Hidden Colors 1, 2, and soon to be 3. Now, I present to some and introduce to others my brother for the evening, special guest, powerful brother, Professor Hiawatha. Kaba Hiawatha, come in.
This is not a valid menu option.
Except, my brother, I am here. How's everything going, brother?
Hotep, Ashe, my brother, it is an honor for me to have you on the air. I know I left you a couple of voice messages, and Brother Dubdeuce the Poet, big shout-outs to him for communicating with you that you would be here. My brother, because of the Hunter College affiliation that you have and the fact that you sat at the feet of the great Professor John Henry Clark, as I did back in 78, 79, it is a pleasure to know that there's so much in common we have that we could talk offline about, but it is a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome again.
My brother, it is a pleasure to be here. I thank you for inviting me, and I thank my brother Deuce for inviting me also, and I look forward to this hour that we're going to spend together.
Well, one of the things that I saw when I saw Hidden Colors 1 and 2, and I want to tell the family that King Flex Entertainment, if anybody doesn't know, that brother does a great job. You really have to give him credit for go ahead and grabbing each one of you in your own rights. You are scholars. Brother Umar Abdullah Johnson has been on this show. Matter of fact, everybody's Sister Frances Cress Welsing. You know, everybody that's on that panel has been on this show, maybe except one. But when I heard you speak, brother, from the intellectual side and how you made it simplistic in Hidden Colors 1, which I went to the theater to see. I went to the theater to see this before it even came out on DVD. And I went and bought the DVD. I actually want to give the dollar back into the community. You know, I think Brother Tariq Nasheed deserves that, and brothers like you deserve us. This should be required reading. I want to take the family on the Genesis because I know there's a few things you want to discuss tonight, especially one of the deeper topics we'll open in a minute. But the essence of Hidden Colors 1, 2, and soon to be 3 is something I believe should be required viewing in the family home. How was that journey for you, my brother, and in the eloquence that you've spoken, and I'm not saying this to patronize you, I'm saying you made it simplistic. How was that journey for you, and looking forward to Hidden Colors 3, how is that journey now as well?
Well, you know, the Hidden Colors series was to open up the history and culture to the world. As Tariq said in the beginning of Hidden Colors 1, that he had been viewing a television show on some type of history, and it did not include the contributions of African-American people. And so at that point he made it his business that he was going to do something to remedy that situation, and the Hidden Colors series has become his response to the lack of exposure of the contributions of African peoples. My background is in education, specifically early childhood. And that is what I spent a great deal of my life, 31 years in. And so I have always striven to make things, as Malcolm said, make it plain, make it simple, so that our community can understand it. And that was one of the great things that I always admired, not just our brother El-Haj Malik El-Shabazz, Malcolm X, for, but I also admired Professor John Henry Clark, who made it very plain. he was a brilliant storyteller, as you know.
Oh, yes.
And his ability to tell these stories and to help and to assist the community in understanding was something that I've always striven to do. And I believe that what I contribute to this is my role as a kindergarten teacher, because my license is in early childhood. And because I've always had to break things down to its most common denominator, I always attempt to break things down to its fundamental parts when we're talking about our history and our culture. So that's what I attempted to bring to the hidden colors concept, is to make it plain. Because all of the scholars there, from Francis Cress Welsing to Phil Valentine to Umar Johnson, Sabir Bey, and all of the others, and then Hidden Colors too, with KRS-One and all the other scholars that would be there, Michelle Alexander, we all had our own contributions to give. We all stayed within our own lane, and we all presented this information from the area that we basically had our specialty in. And so I appreciate my brother Tariq Nasheed, and I'm very honored to be a part of the Hidden series. And I'm coming back last week. I spent time in Los Angeles in the studio filming Hidden Colors 3. And the title of, and the theme of Hidden Colors 3 is the rules of racism. And the only thing I can tell the community is that if you learned from, enjoyed, and appreciated 1 and 2 of Hidden Colors, well, fasten your seatbelts. Because Hidden Colors 3, with Paul Mooney, Dick Gregory, Francis Cress Welsing, Joy DeGree, Umar Johnson, Shahrazad Ali, when you get a load of what these individuals are going to present as it relates to racism, and as Tariq Nasheed said, one of the most important things is that whenever racism, as we know it, which I don't believe exists, I don't deal with racism, I deal with white supremacy. Neely Fuller is right. It's not about racism. Racism doesn't exist. That's an illusion. But what is the scientific reality is white supremacy. But you see, the concept is we always get caught up in discussing this with other peoples of other cultures. They always water it down, and the conversation never really gets an opportunity to be discussed from our mouths as it relates to how we feel about it. So that this opportunity in Hidden Colors allows us to discuss these concepts of racism and white supremacy from our perspective without untimely interruptions from other peoples and other cultures who always are attempting to hide their insecurities and their inferiorities by attempting to play down the impact of their own insecurities, inferiorities, and as Dr. Francis Cress Welsing calls it, their own fears of genetic annihilation. So Hidden Colors 3 promises to be a very powerful experience. And it's going to be shown, it's going to go worldwide this time, because Hidden Colors 3 has touched a chord that with all of the documentaries and fine works that have been produced up until this point, Hidden Colors hit a chord that I think was very important. It was an appointed time and an anointed time that when Hidden Colors was introduced, it touched our community in a way that the other documentaries have not yet done. Not to take away from the genius of those documentaries, those stories, because they were great. But something about Hidden Colors was what touched the community, and for that, I will be forever grateful to our brother and his staff and those that made Hidden Colors 1 and 2 and now 3 a powerful saga into our experience as a people.
Well, my brother, let me tell you, as I sat with my wife and my son through Hidden Colors 1, then bought the DVD, shared it, and had family meetings with it. Brother Taki and I also had mentioned that what we was doing as a station, we was having community meetings and having discussions. And the same thing with Hidden Colors 2, which a lot of people didn't know there was a 2, let alone 3 coming up. And I know people listening to this, especially with the effects of recent racism that has hit our communities. The George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin trial, which really was a trial against our young brother, not where it should have been on George Zimmerman, and people look at racism, they could see that. They were trying to vilify that young brother, even to this day. I think people will now get the fact, and as Professor Kamal Kambar says, white domination, which they really want to do. They want to dominate because they know as genetic mutants, and we say this only because the proven facts that genetically they know the lack of melanin did not produce them to be on equal terms with us as far as physicality, intellectually, what we've invented, which is broken down in Hidden Colors 1 and 2, and I'm sure the racism part in 3, to show that there's a track record where we're not trying to profess for anybody. We're showing that who we are as a people has to be dealt with, and what we've allowed ourselves to ingest, so to speak, over centuries of miseducation and lack of mentoring, as I see it, by those who could and be griots and be able to tell the story as Professor John Henry Clark has done, as you have done. And I know in the 70s, I'm sure 70s or 80s, I've crossed paths with you in New York at a teaching, at some type of seminar, because the more I was listening to you, and when I read your bio, I said, I know I've been at a seminar with this brother. Just your style, it just brings so many things to mind what we've done, but I digress. I think now by these series, again, coming out, we don't get our families to injustice and the shackles of white supremacy / domination will keep our people confused, and educators like yourself who brings it out and do not debate with people, there will be nothing that you have to worry about. There will be, unfortunately, those that fall by the wayside who want to follow otherwise.
Absolutely. See, we're at a point now that we are at a very formative time. We are at a time that is a very we have great opportunities right now. And it's important that we take advantage of these opportunities and really begin to do what needs to be done for our community and for our people, and move forward with this agenda, this educational agenda as it relates, to what I believe that I can contribute. And looking at the work of Neely Fuller, a scholar, as it relates to the 9 areas that white supremacy attacks us. And it is in religion that it attacks us, economics, it attacks us, labor, it attacks us as it relates to being able to have a job. It attacks us as it relates to our relationships as males and females with each other. It attacks us in education and in law. It attacks us in war. It attacks us in entertainment. And it attacks us in politics. And if we are to put ourselves in a position of power, we need to look at these 9 areas of religion, economics, labor, gender, and education, law, war, entertainment, and politics, and bring the very best minds together in these areas. And the bottom line is the issue, not the personality, because we get too much involved in personality. I have worked with people who have very little regard for me personally, and quite frankly, I didn't care too much for them. But because we had an issue at hand that we had to solve, we were able to work together not as personalities, but as issue-oriented people to get the job done. I'd like to say we ended up respecting each other as friends, but we didn't. There were times when we had no regard for each other even after we finished the task. But we had a respect for each other that at least, despite our personality differences, that we as men, women, were able to work together in the interest of our people to get the job done and put our own personal feelings aside. Even if it meant for them to direct me as to what I would have to do, or I direct them as to what they have to do, we accepted our charge and got the job done. We have to stop fighting amongst ourselves. We have to stop arguing amongst ourselves. And even if we have issues, we put that aside to get the major task, which is the total emancipation and liberation of our people, on the front burner and get the job done.
My brother, there's a study guide, and that is very well said, getting the job done, bottom line. There's a study guide that you have that's very extensive on what some of those bullet points are for us to take heed to when you're teaching. There's an interesting one that I know, and I talked to Brother Dub about, and maybe he'll even chime in later. You have a history and a layout of the origin of the word nigger and where it comes from. A lot of people use that word loosely, and they're not knowing that it has a history and origin and what they could see it as, rather than just saying it loosely without even paying homage to what it is. I would like you, my brother, as you keep it simple, making it plain, give our family the history of that word and how it goes into what people have somewhat bastardized it into, and not knowing that there are elements that are tethered to us that we need to be aware of, rather than just using it, not knowing as many things that were taught to us or that we follow that should help us not only survive in the community but excel in it.
You see, brother, as it relates to that word, on YouTube, there's a piece that I did. I teach college, upstate New York, SUNY New Paltz. I'm in the Black Studies department.
Very familiar.
And I'm invited frequently to speak to the students after class because I teach evenings. And this one evening, they asked me just to come together as a group of young people, because I'm talking to freshmen to seniors in college. That word is very different from the word that we used growing up that I have watched people die over. And I looked to the history of the word in order to understand it and to be able to put it in a way that we could move to another level. And because of the strategy, the pain that we have felt as a people with this word, I decided that what I wanted to do was to frame the concept before I taught the word. And the way in which I begin talking about this is by talking about a woman by the name of Helene Blavatsky, who was a Russian metaphysician who traveled the world and visited Tibet and came upon a spiritual system that had many symbols. When you look at the ancient world, this symbol is all over the ancient world, and it is a sacred symbol. It is a beautiful symbol. And it is in Africa. It represents everything from an elliptical galaxy to the law of opposites and complements. It represents all the wonderful things that our society has to offer in the ancient world. In China, they rounded off the symbol, and it represents the yin and the yang, the male and the female, the law of opposites, those things that bring all things into existence. And it is a beautiful symbol. It has wonderful meanings, connotations, and denotations. Madame Helene Blavatsky brings these symbols back to Europe and to Russia. And because of the nature of the metaphysics of it, it catches throughout that world. And there would be a young lieutenant that would look to this symbol, and he would attach to this symbol. This individual was rather insane. He was crazy, and he was a horrible human being. However, he took this symbol and he emblazoned it on his flags. He emblazoned it on the clothes of those that wore it. He made it a national symbol for the country we today call Germany. And he did horrible things to people. And every time these horrible acts were performed on these individuals, they would see this symbol. And what was once a very beautiful symbol became a very dirty, worthless, horrible symbol. Because every time that people were put in the gas chambers, every time people were shot, every time people were murdered, they saw this symbol flying on the flags of the people that were treating them in a most horrible way. If I should walk into a room of people who are of Jewish faith, and I would draw the swastika which is this symbol I'm talking about, if I were to draw this symbol on the chalkboard, and if people of Jewish faith were to see this symbol, they would want to do me physical, mental, and spiritual harm. They wouldn't ask me what it means. They don't know what it means. It doesn't mean that it's a wonderful elliptical galaxy. It doesn't mean that it is the law of opposites. It doesn't mean all beautiful things that bring people together. All it represents to them is what murdered their people, put their people in gas chambers, created a horrible system of government that almost took over the world. They would want no part of this symbol because a dirty man with a dirty mind did dirty, horrible things to people with this symbol that was once beautiful representing his actions. Now, with that in mind, let us go back to a word that the Romans came upon during the Punic Wars. And when they would come into North Africa, and they would visit North Africans from Libya to Kemet or Egypt, Morocco, Mauritania, they would come upon peoples who would tell them, they would say, who are you? And they had a word, a term, a sound, and that sound was Inger, which if we were to put it into the alphabet we use, it would be NGR, Inger. And they said, well, what does this mean? And they said, well, it means that we are powerful leaders. We are the Negus Negusti. We are the Ingers. We are the leaders. We are sacred people. We are spiritual people. And so the Romans, not having this word in their vocabulary, placed this word in their vocabularies. And it came to the form of Negro, Niger. And that is how the word got into the Roman vocabulary. Now, from a very beautiful word, from a very wonderful, powerful word, leadership, sacred, powerful, living word, creator word, a dirty people took a beautiful word and labeled a people on it. And every time they would do something to hurt those people, they would call those people that beautiful word that meant leader, sacred, and wonderful. That word in the context of its usage by the people who used it became a very horrible word. It was a beautiful word, but it was made horrible by dirty, worthless, animalistic people who are white supremacists. So that as our grandmothers and mothers were being beaten on the plantation, as they were being tortured, burned at the stake, and lynched on trees, when they sicked their dogs and their fire hoses on our pregnant family members, this word nigger was used. So what was once a very beautiful word became a horrible word because of the dirty people that were using it. So that when I use this lesson to teach our young people, I attempt to help them understand the history of the word. And I tell them, don't go out there and tell anybody that Brother Kaba say you can use this word because it's beautiful. No more than I would tell somebody to go out and start drawing swastikas because although Hitler used it for horrible reasons, it's really a beautiful word because it is the social context, it's the social construct of the words we use that give these words the power that they have. And so I use this to explain to our young people to understand our elders. Understand our elders and why they don't like that word. And I say to the elders to understand the history of the word, to understand why that word has no real meaning or it doesn't mean the same thing to our younger people. And as we develop an understanding, we can choose whether or not we want to use that word. But by no means or stretch of the imagination saying that that is a good word because of the social context and what has happened because of that word, because of the way in which that word has been used against us, the same way that beautiful swastika, that beautiful symbol that became the swastika, although it's a beautiful symbol and it means wonderful thing, people are not concentrated on the history of that symbol. They are concentrated on when they saw the symbol in their life, which brought them great pain. So that when our people hear that word nigger, they're not going back to Negus Negusti. They're not going back to the Ethiopian Abyssinians or to the Garamantes of North Africa or the Moroccans who had great civilizations. They're going back to the plantation when they were tortured, raped, and mistreated. And that word means to them. I only want us to get into the history of the word so that if we should choose to use the word or never use the word again, at least understanding the history of the word allows us to put that word in a social context in which we can move forward as a community and not allow ever a word to create such a problem. Because, listen, for every cultural group that I have ever known or come upon, I can give you a derogatory word that represents that group, whether they be Italian or Irish or Polish or Jewish, Albanian, Japanese, Chinese. We have a derogatory word for all groups. So if folk want to throw out derogatory terms, I know derogatory terms for everybody. So, I want us just to look at the word, understand the word, and deal with the word from where it's coming from so we don't get caught up in allowing a word to be something that it is not. It is a social construct that we are experiencing that stops us from being able to use that word, and not that that word is a bad word. What sends shivers up our spine when we hear that word is not because it's a bad word. It is because the word created great pain for us as a people. Every time we hear it, we remember our experiences where we were hearing that word.
And the way you really wove that into the story using the swastika, which I've seen their drawings and read books about how that materialized into a bad symbol, this explanation that you gave of the root word of this is a first for me. Now, hopefully this will be in Hidden Colors 3 where it could break that root, because if it's dealing with racism, Hidden Colors 3, and in any teachings, a lot of our brothers and sisters who use that word to each other, and they say, well, you guys call each other that, and then they take it and make it slang, nigga, we're not saying it with the ER, we're saying the NIGGA, but they don't know about the NGR, the true root, the etymology of the word, semantically now placing it in the derogatory term as the Europeans and those who've committed the white supremacy / domination over them. So that mindset that our people, especially the young ones, and I'm very thankful that you choose to get the younger ones, because when you talk to elders, and I grew up listening to my elders, and again, we could say, may peace be upon him, John Henry Clark, to sit in his class as a 20-year-old in 1978, and I would cut classes to his class before I even was a student of his. Myrna Bain, I don't know if you're familiar with her at Hunter College. She was a very you remember her?
You know about Jerry Bain?
No, Myrna Bain from Hunter College. She was a black studies.
Yes, I remember Sister Baines.
Yeah, she was one of my black studies teachers. And she told
I remember
me,
Sister Baines.
Yeah, she told me to go to Jerry Clark's class, and it's not just because of him just being an educator, because who I was as a man, and a young man seeking knowledge, being on the Black Student Union and doing all that, and the radio station at Hunter College. When I think about the travels as a young man and maybe even seeking greater knowledge, a lot of young people now with the Twitter, the YouTube, and all these social media pollutants, you could use it as a tool, but a lot of it is polluting the mind of people. This type of education, especially in a classroom setting, will help them elevate. Now, you may reach hundreds at a point, then thousands. and then we have to teach each other in classroom settings. But I would hope something like this, which is why it is hidden, to put this on network TV and say, here's the history of this word, go do the research, would shift the paradigm of millions of us, especially young people, who are ignorant to the fact that this word is something they've heard, they've used against us, they've known our people to be murdered from it, hung, castrated, and every other type of vile act. This type of education will bring up even to those elders who did not realize, or I would say really they're older, because an elder is a earned title to me. You could be older, but you never taught or was willing to rise up out of whatever oppressive behavior you think was done and was done to you. However, you remained in that. By getting education, you can now go, I did not know. Now you could teach your younger generations at the family reunion and beyond to be able to help them not use it non-constructively or even use it at all. Like you said, you don't have to use the word at all again. At least know the history of it. So as if you're using the word God or anything in your particular religious walks, you know the origin of a spiritual travel. I think what you've just done, for the sake of our listeners now, is give them a chance to be able to know, wow, I was just using it like some people use tinfoil. They don't know what they're doing. And even I, when I was growing up, I wasn't aware of this. And you know about New York City. Of course you do. Growing up in the Bronx, that word was tossed around constantly. Even here in Atlanta, Georgia, in the South, it's tossed around across the nation, across the world. And I think our people, with racist trials, police brutality, economic, all the 9 concepts Nikki Fuller and Dr. Francis Correlson speak of, our people have to be prepared to see in every faction of life this type of behavior and or thought process, because I think it's beyond the word now. It's a thought process to get you thinking as if you are inferior, as if you are just a negative connotation, a nigger, with no history of the beauty of the word and the origins. And I think and would hope that through consistent feeding this back, we could be able to do that. And in your study guide, you have several other issues I know that are helpful. Are your young people in class, Baba, receiving your information and maybe even asking for additional tutoring outside of a class setting where they can actually go help themselves, help each other?
Well, in my college class, in the fall term, I teach Intro to Africa, which is an overview of ancient African history, which is in the study guide that I have. In the spring term, I teach a course on our brother Malcolm X. I teach a course, Malcolm X, the Man in His Times. I think some of the most powerful relationships and conversations and discussions I have with the students is built into the relationship that I've developed with them when they invite me to come back to their student activity centers that's in their dormitories and to conduct different types of conversations with them. And, you know, one of the things that I realized, brother, particularly on the college level, because I'm an early childhood person, basically, and I've taught all grades, high school, from pre-K straight. I've taught parents who have children in their womb. So I've tried to reach but the college student still needs that adult relationship in their life. They still need a father image. And for so many of my students who may have grown up without a daddy, in a college setting, I still represent their father in many ways. I've come to realize that. We think that, okay, they're 18 to 21 and they're on their own, but the fact of the matter is we all need that parental image in our life. And so when they invite me back to their student centers, to their recreation rooms, in their dormitories, they get to see me in a different setting. And I do different types of conversations and discussions, from teaching them about the Dogon, the Maori, to the Shabaka stone, to student rights, how to protect yourself, this particular concept on the origin of the word nigger. This was one of the activities that we had. And where I come in and maybe my class ends at like 8:30 in the evening, and I'll do a presentation from like 9 to 11. I have visited college campuses across the country. And I remember nights when I would go to Columbia University and speak at the Malcolm X Lounge, and there'd be students sleeping on the floor at 2:30 in the morning, and we'd still be going at it. And so, going back to your question, it is so important for us to understand this relationship that we have with our young people is a never-ending relationship between the elder and the younger. And that we, as you so rightly said, just because you get older don't make you an elder. It just makes you older. To be an elder is a position of someone who has gained experience and is willing to share this experience free of heart to those who are willing to listen. You know, they say the only thing worse than a young fool is an old fool.
Right.
And so that just being older doesn't make you someone, and sometimes older people try to take advantage of their being older. But they're really not giving anything of value to the community. That has nothing to do with who they are. That just means that you just did not evolve into the person that experience allows you to become. Like Richard Pryor said, you don't get to be old by being a fool. You learn through your experiences. The question is, are you willing to share?
Conform to who you are. And if you could do that, then we're safe. And I try to tell people, let's not look at a bottom line economic gain and then you miss all that spiritual glory out there and you become polluted. There's many stories of many millionaires who've lost their mind and killed themselves because they realized they didn't know who they were, knowledge of self. So I'm not looking for overly a material gain from this, talking and teaching and having shows like this or going to seminars and sitting, being humble. And I think a lot of people would rather sell their soul and not be humble than to go ahead and get rich and then say, well, I've made it. I've reached the top. The top of what? A pyramid that exists? That is not the food chain I want to be part of because you're only going to be fodder for what they put you through on that conveyor belt.
Brother
And
Wallace.
you know what?
I think I heard Brother Dub. That Brother Dub?
That's me, good brothers. How's it going, good brothers? Brother Carper?
Excellent, Brother Dub. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to jump in since Brother Wally cued me in, and that's just
Oh, I had to, brother, because I know you in the back, and you're part of this show as we always do. We love you, brothers. Go ahead, right ahead.
Right. In the about roughly 12 minutes that we have left, I just wanted to thank the good brother for coming on, and I just wanted to say, hey, when he was breaking that down, Brother Wallace, I was here sitting with tears in my eyes. That's how powerful that was, and that's how powerful that message is, that not just us in the Rambe family that are listening live tonight, but those that will listen to playback, they need to hear that. And this brother has the history, has the scholar, has the elders that still, whether a living or a transition, still speaking to him. So he's in contact with the ancestors, in contact with let's say the universe and multiverses as well. So I'm happy. I'm joyful. My spirit is up. Was he's given the knowledge about the ancient gods and the ancient those that have the full access to the Kundalini energy. So again, brother, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for breaking it down to us. Like I said, I know you may want to transition or translate it on into the melanin and the Moors, but I'm here just listening in the background. Thank you so much.
Hotep. And you know, brother, something else that Brother Wale said earlier, the more I learn, how much more there is to learn. And I want to be very clear that I received this information on the words of the origin of the word nigger by a brother by the name of Ori Pianki. And I encourage the community to go on the internet and go into the search engine and just put the origin of the word nigger. Because, my research led me to Brother Pianki. And there's an article right there that I have studied, that where I got that information that I shared with you. Not the piece about the swastika. The swastika is just history that I've taught. I've read the works of Helene Blavatsky. I've read the works of the brother, very powerful brother by the name of Pascal Beverly. People need to understand Pascal Beverly. This brother was just a brilliant metaphysician that impacted Helene Blavatsky. He was a New Yorker, and he was a metaphysician back in the 1800s. And people need to research that brother, Pascal Beverly Randolph, to understand exactly how heavy this brother was. So that the combination of my research of Helene Blavatsky with the development of the swastika, with a 3-part DVD that I bought with the occult science behind the Nazi Party. You see, we all have to understand that Hitler was a student of Egypt. That's why he called himself the Führer, because Führer is the German word for Pharaoh. And that is why he had the eagle on his helmet, because that represented Heru, the resurrection of the Vaterland. Because the Germans, between World War I and World War II, always believed that they should have won World War I. So Hitler saw himself as a resurrected spirit that was about to bring back to Germany its rightful place in the world. And to do that, he created the first people to be murdered by the Nazis were not people of Jewish faith. The first people to be murdered by the Nazis were the Africans and African Americans that remained in Europe. That's who Hitler was after. Hitler wasn't creating a new religion. He was creating a new race. And the reason why Jews were attacked was, for one thing, they had a great deal of control over the monetary system of Europe, but also they believed them to be tainted with black blood. And that's why he went after the Jews. But the people he was trying to get rid of on the planet were black people. There's a DVD out on black Germans that talk about what the Nazis did to them. World War II didn't start with what happened with the bombing of Japan. World War II started when the fascist Italians went into Ethiopia. Hitler was a student of Mussolini. In 1923, when Mussolini was arrested, Hitler was arrested in Germany. That's why the connection between the Italians, the Japanese, and the Germans were so tight. Because Nazism is the German form of Italian fascism with Mussolini. Now, I tell people, don't believe me. Just study history. Go back and read this for yourself. I'm not here to make you believe me. I'm here to make you think. That's why Hitler would not shake Jesse Owens' hands. That's why he had a problem with Joe Louis when Joe Louis beat the devil out of Max Schmeling. Because those two black men contradicted everything that Nazism said about the inferiority of blacks and the superiority of Europeans.
Right. Let me say this, brother, and when people think about that, and I always watch the little specials they did with Joe Louis and Max Schmeling, and they tried to make them friends and all of that, and I heard they had a nice conversation after the second fight where he did get the dog beat out of him. But the whole Jesse Owens thing, and you see that even if you go 20 years earlier with Jack Johnson and what he was doing here in America, 100 years before his time, even though I didn't agree with what he did with white women and all of that. There's so much history when you do the research, and I did write down Pascal Beverly Randolph, which I'm going to do research on, and the origin of the word nigger, and I encourage everybody else to. What I want our family to do, first and foremost, brother, I want you to know this is your first time on Harambe, not your last. I'm going to set it up with Brother Delani and bring it into the ethers that we'll have you on for a 2-hour show on a Friday in the future before the year ends. because we want to promote Hidden Colors 3 to the highest level possible, and any additional education which you have a wealth of knowledge on, we want that out in the air, in the open, for us to continue to chop up. If you can, brother, any and all contact information that our family needs to reach you, email you, set you up for seminars, conversations, or otherwise, you can feel free to give that out. And again, brother, it's been my honor as a student of yours, not only tonight, but in your series, and spiritually, I know we've crossed each other's paths. It's an honor again to have you on.
Well, I appreciate you, brother. And please, if I can just correct something that I said. His name is Pascal Randolph Beverly. I think Beverly is his last name.
Okay, I'll switch that up. Let me do that.
Yeah,
Randolph Beverly.
Yeah, so I think that's my challenge. Also, Hubert Harrison is another brother that we need to know about.
Hubert Harrison?
Yes, Hubert Harrison, man. He was known as the Black Socrates, man. This brother used to preach in Harlem. Yeah, man, this brother used to preach. He used to teach on the corner in Harlem where white people used to come up to listen to him. He was a philosopher king. And we need to know about it. But I just raised those 2 points. And also Shashi McIntyre, we need to read her book, Criminalizing a Race. But as it relates to my information, I encourage the community to email me at commona777@aol.com. KAME777@aol.com. I also have a website, www.pantherprints.com, PANTHERPRINCE.com. The online television, the online cable program that I have is entitled The Perank, P-E-R-A-N-K-H, with Brother Kava, K-A-B-A. The website, www.TOWNZONETV.com. We stream live on Wednesdays from 9 to 10 Eastern Time. And we teach the study. Email me and let me know that you've heard it on Harambe Radio. I will send you the study guide free of charge. It's 70 pages. One more point is that Dr. Runoko Rashidi is going on a tour of Spain and Morocco from June 7th to June 17th, 2014. He has invited me to be a guest lecturer. That we will be developing a concept for 10 days of the role that Africans played in the development of the Renaissance of Europe.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, when you contact if you're interested, I'll send you the itinerary of where will be those 10 days. But I encourage you to consider this because it's going to be a powerful activity because I have done a lot of research on the Moors, and Runoko Rashidi has been in Spain over 10 times. He's been in Morocco over 5 times. He has a great understanding of it, and he will do for this trip what Dr. Ben did for us going to Egypt. He knows where to take us, and I know how to teach it. So reach out to us.
My brother, I'm definitely going to do that. You've kept me alive, not only this last hour, you've kept my spirit engulfed with reaching out more to my family. Again, brother, it's an honor, a pleasure. Dubdouche, you've done your not only due diligence as a Harambe family member, but we've just added another. Kaba, Hiawatha Kamene. My brother, may the blessings continue to rise up through you as it comes through us as well. Once again, Hotep and Ashe for your energy. Get ready for our sister, Gwen Mack and brother Marshall Wilkerson. It's been a pleasure, brother. We're going to talk offline real soon.
Hotep and Hotep to the family.